high definition. Central Coast News right now.
Central Coast News understands how important political coverage is to our viewers.
For the past 2 years, our entire news team was dedicated to educating our viewers about the important topics, helping them make informed decisions and uncovering government waste.
But we know it isn't about us, it is about the viewer. We gave them the chance to ask candidates their questions in debates, forums, and online. And all candidates running for any office, big or small, got to deliver their message directly to the viewer.
This is Central Coast News Campaign 2010.
We appreciate KION and all of your support in terms of excellent election coverage this year. Thank you very much.
You know, a lot of people need to drive this bridge every single day, but for a lot of other taxpayers, you're wasting billions of dollars on something you may never even see.
Hi, how much? How much is the billion-dollar question these days? The Cal Tax report shows in the last 10 years, you have spent $18.9 billion on government waste in the state.
We are all over the Central Coast. These are some aerial photos of the protest up in Santa Cruz. Dozens of faculty members, students, teachers getting out, getting their message heard, and also blocking streets. Our own Erica Argueta was up there early today following the Santa Cruz protest. They started early. Let's go to her now.
Students at UC Santa Cruz have blocked campus. They are protesting. They say that they don't want any fee increases, furlough days, or cuts to classes.
Here we go, the very first results. The numbers are coming in right now to Central Coast News for the governor's race. And here we go, Jerry Brown, very early tonight with 64% of the vote.
I got a tip that I just had to check out when I got to the Capitol. I found Santa Barbara Assemblyman Pedro Nava's office because I wanted to ask him how his $48,000 taxpayer-sponsored Toyota hybrid SUV drives. It made him so ill he couldn't talk to us.
Nope.
No.
Not at all.
No, I have stomach ache.
You look pretty good.
Can I just talk to him?
No, he said no, and he's running up to committee, so I think so.
Okay. Despite ultimately talking to his press secretary, Nava never chose to speak with us. Vehicles, though, aren't the only issue. Take a look. Shafter Senator Dean Flores near Bakersfield spent close to $1,000 of campaign funds at Williams-Sonoma on a coffee machine, espresso machine, wine glasses, and bottle openers he says were for a Democratic caucus reception. Senator Tony Strickland spent $2,000 for Lazy Boy furniture. A campaign spokesman said the furniture was for the senator's district office in Thousand Oaks. And then there are the Calderon brothers. Last Christmas, State Senator Ron Calderon from Montebello bought a $182 present for his brother Charles from Big Five Sporting Goods. He paid $100 to Starbucks for a present for his brother Tom, who is a consultant. The same day, Assemblyman Charles Calderon paid $400 for a Nordstrom gift card for Ron Calderon. Now you may be saying, who cares? They're all from Southern California. And that's right. But it's your money, whether it be taxes or campaign funds, that are footing their bills.
I believe that every legislator should lead by example, but when just a few of us do it, it doesn't send the right message to the overall Capitol on all of our budgets.
Senator Jeff Denham is one of only 3 people to not use a state car in all of the Senate, but use their personal vehicle. Senator Denham also doesn't take a state cell phone and doesn't get reimbursed for his personal cell. So you may be thinking, here, he gets a pass. But he does travel from his home in Atwater to Sacramento almost every day and uses hotels in Sac and other areas of his district when he travels. Those things are a part of his gas and per diem allowances.
For instance, our per diem. We ought to get per diem for the living expenses, the same way that you do in the military when you're overseas.
What did you get?
Prius. The car Assemblywoman Ana Caballero drives is a car you and I are paying for, but she stays at her Sacramento home during the week and her Salinas home on the weekends, saving on gas and lodging.
Do some members get more expensive cars than others? Yes. Do some members get bigger vehicles than others? Yes. Do they use more gas than others? Yes. No question about it.
Caballero put in perspective why our local lawmakers may be more vigilant about saving, saying our area is just too small to get away with any significant overspending.
It hurts. There's no question about it. I took a voluntary pay cut the beginning of last year.
And how much was that?
It was a 10% pay cut. So when the commission, and it's an independent commission, decided to make it 18% for salary and then some benefit cuts as well, I had to make some adjustments like everybody else.
Almost every legislator I spoke with in Sacramento told me about the pay cut they were voluntarily taking even before the 18%. That said, it seems they don't want to give up anymore. On June 16th, the California Citizen Compensation Commission, who has the authority to regulate legislator salaries, will meet. They are expected to vote on cutting per diem and car allowance. When legislators caught wind of this, they challenged the group's right to cut those perks. The Attorney General, though, says, yes, they do. In the meantime, when you ask legislators about the state's budget issues, they are quick to shift the blame.
We're trying to change the business as usual, and we're trying to put some real structure to a process that hasn't had a lot of structure in the past.
But do you think the legislators also need to change business as usual?
Oh, there's no question about it, and that's one of the things that we're looking at, is what are the things we need to do that change how we do business, and make us more accountable as well.
We'll let you know that decision on June 16th, but in the meantime, think about this. When you combine the salary and per diem rates, most California legislators make $130,000 per year. What do you make? Brooke Holmquist, your Central Coast News.
What do you do about the budget deficit? Meg Whitman has said cut 40,000 jobs by letting people retire early and not hiring them back. Well, what's your first thing to do to cut the budget?
Well, I'd cut the governor's office, then I'd cut some of the programs that I know don't work, but we can't just fire 40,000 people from the general fund positions. There are only 100,000 jobs in the general fund that the governor controls. 60,000 are in corrections. And if you try to slash and burn like they do in businesses, you might have no one at the mental hospitals. You might have prisoners on the loose. The prison guards wouldn't have a backup. There's not a lot of massive jobs that you can just wipe out. Mm-hmm. For example, many of the jobs that have been created that the Republicans are counting as part of the state number are at the University of California, right, are at the state colleges, are at the community colleges.
Right.
We don't want to fire those people. We want more teachers, not less.
All right, but we don't have the money for them.
Well,
so
you're going to have to you have to borrow.
What about taxes, raising or lowering taxes?
I don't see we're going to lower taxes. I say no new taxes. If the people want them, they'll have to vote for them.
So again, where's the revenue then?
The revenue is going to come from the normal growth of our dynamic economy and the gap closing with borrowed funds. There's no other way.
Ms. Whitman has a powerful organization behind her, spending a lot of money.
Wait, she has a powerful bank account behind her.
Okay.
That's the power.
She is going to use your 40-year in politics to say, and I'm quoting her, failed experiments, undelivered promises, big government spending, and higher taxes.
Right. Well, this is her consultant. She doesn't know that. She didn't even live here. She wasn't even participating in elections. I don't even know if she read the newspaper. I mean, the truth is that when I was governor, 1.9 million jobs were created. We were the world leader in wind energy. This is the first time that Latinos ever got a chance to be on the Supreme Court or to have high positions. Mm-hmm. The same is true of women or Asians or African Americans. I've got a record.
But
and
she's saying she's got eBay. She ran the biggest, this gigantic company and knows how to create jobs, knows how to run a big operation.
Well, let us look at that over the course of this election. Whether it's Poizner or Miss Whitman here. Being a CEO, I want people to really get this, that's an autocratic position. The difference between running a business with all that authority and being the governor, hemmed in by a Senate, an Assembly, two political parties, and all these judges looking over your shoulder, nothing could be different. There are two complete differences. And by the way, if you were to apply for a job in business, you wouldn't show a resume that said, hey, I've never been in this business before, I've never held a job, but I want to be the boss.
I've been saving all my vacation time and sick time, and it's just because of the furlough Fridays.
If you talk to the governor's office, they'll tell you furlough Fridays are expected to save $1.4 billion, and say to date they've already saved you $1.2 billion. But this short-term savings is masking your long-term spending on vacation payouts.
Many employees have used those 3-day weekends as a sort of vacation plan, if you will.
You get other things that are taken care of, and the time just isn't really needed right now. So You know, so I'm saving mine, and it's the way I have my lifestyle right now.
Employees who are saving up vacation time because they've been using furlough hours instead will resume using their vacation time when the furlough program ends this June.
Or so Linnell Jolly with the Department of Personnel hopes, because last year alone, close to $200 million was paid out to workers who left state service.
Some of those are leaving with larger vacation balances than we would like to see.
The California Taxpayers Association's latest report on state waste shows one example of a prison doctor who accumulated 4 years of unused vacation time in only 10 years on the job. The state had to pay him $815,000 when he left.
We don't want employees to save up their vacation hours as some sort of retirement nest egg.
But that's exactly what's happening, and it seems as a state employee you learn early on it's the cool thing to do.
I've heard, I'm a pretty new employee with the state, so I've heard that you can cash it out at the time of your retirement, so definitely.
That's kind of enticing.
Yes.
And how could it not be? Jolly says there is a 640-hour cap for vacation time. That's 80 days. According to Salary.com, most companies in America let employees carry over 40 hours or 5 unused days. In fact, Jolly blames the baby boomer generation for racking up decades of vacation and sick pay, setting a standard for running up the tab on a retirement payout that's now catching up to the state. And in the end, taxpayers will have to deal with it.
Many years ago, this problem started, and we've tried to address it in more recent years, but it will take time to whittle those vacation balances down to where they need to be.
And that is the final problem. There really is no recourse for those department managers who don't pay attention to the cap and give payouts to their employees who consistently exceed that 640 hours.
We're working to enforce the cap that currently exists.
Jolly says without a policy change and no real punishment, the only thing she has left to do is encourage people to take a day off and take the kids to the beach. And the real tragedy is you're footing the bill.
It makes it more critical now for us to start making sure departments manage those leave balances because we want them under control before employees retire.
One more note. All state workers are given that 640-hour cap mentioned in the story, but CHP officers, they have a vacation cap of 816 hours. Brooke Holmquist, your Central Coast News.
To many people, Meg Whitman is an unknown. If a vote for Meg Whitman is a vote for what?
I think it's a vote for someone who has spent 30 years in business, who knows how to run large organizations, who deeply understands the economy and has created jobs. You probably know at eBay we went from 30 employees to 15,000, and more than 1 million people make their living, or most of their living selling on eBay.
Can a governor be like a CEO? Can they boss like a CEO? Politics is a much more communal activity where you have to compromise and not just give out orders.
The government is not a business. It will never be a business. But my thought is, and I think many people in California, is we need to run this a little bit more like a business. We need to make sure we're spending money efficiently and effectively. We have to make the hard trade-offs because the sad truth is we have a government we can no longer afford.
And California is facing so many crises. Where would you start? What would be the first things that you attack?
Well, I think first, how we actually run the government has to change. And I am a big believer in focus. Let's do 3 things at 100% as opposed to 20 things at 15%. And my first focus is jobs because you know we have a 12.5% unemployment rate here, 4th highest in the country. So how we're going to do that is first is streamline regulation. You hit the nail on the head. I want to put a moratorium on all new regulations, sort out what we have, remove the duplicative regulations, and bring some balance back between the environment, which we all care a lot about, but we also have to put jobs and people on an equal footing.
What's the next on your list after jobs?
Well, first is jobs, then making government much more efficient, really cutting government spending. And then third is our kindergarten through 12th grade education system.
And of course, we've been trying to tackle that for a long time. What can you do?
I think there's 3 things we can do. One is we have got to provide parents clarity on how good their child's school is. And I think we ought to grade every single public school a letter grade, A through F. And then we have to increase the number of charter schools dramatically. Because if your child is in a D school, a charter school will provide an opportunity for you to move that child to a better school. And then we've got to pay the better teachers more.
Your opponents will try to exploit the issue that you're a novice, didn't even register with the
Right.
to vote until 2002, with the party until 2007. How do you combat those challengers trying to exploit that?
Yeah. So what I say about voting is, you know what, my voting record isn't perfect, and you know, I did actually vote and register before 2002, but I was not as engaged as I should have been. But what I will tell you is I am engaged now because I see what is happening every day to California. And when I got to eBay, I saw how much trouble the government could cause for small business. And small business, as you know, is the backbone of the state. So I am engaged, and people will have to look at the whole package.
How far are you willing to go with your own funds, your own personal fortune, in this election process?
Sure. We will put in enough money to run a winning campaign. You know, I'm very strategic. I want to make sure that we're spending money effectively, but I want to make sure also that we're getting our message out and introducing me and my message to voters, because as you pointed out at the beginning of this interview, I am well known in a business context, but not so well known in a political context.
With the budget impasses that we have seen, do you really think that you can come in as an outsider and change the dynamic of the two parties, the unions, the special interests? How does one do that?
The next governor of California is going to have a spine of steel. This job is not for the faint of heart. Think about it. I think half the people will be upset with you almost all the time. And while you're taking on the education establishment, while you're trying to make government more efficient, while you're trying to fundamentally change the business climate of California, you're going to get a lot of pushback. My view is that there has been a pretty significant vacuum of leadership in Sacramento. And the Republicans and the Democrats are, you know, not able to come to agreement on many things. But I think actually we can do much better than we have done. And we have to.
How are you feeling?
Well, for the nation, I'm sad because I think it's really a great loss to lose the Democratic leadership. But I'm very happy for California.
Hello, I'm Mary Mangle-Zeeb, a candidate for Monterey County Treasurer Tax Collector. I'm the only candidate with proven experience working for more than 23 years in the Treasurer Tax Collector's Department, including more than 12 years as Assistant Treasurer Tax Collector. I'm dedicated to customer service, and I promise to provide you with prompt responses and will demand from all my employees and county colleagues that you are treated fairly and with respect. Local business and labor groups both have recognized my leadership in customer service, innovation in technology, and the knowledge about laws and regulations to keep your money safe. I'm endorsed by the Salinas Valley Chamber of Commerce and the Monterey-based Central Labor Council, along with many treasurer tax collectors throughout the state. I'm serious about carefully investing money in the Treasurer's office, and I will continue to make sure sufficient funds are available to pay the bills and meet daily cash needs. I ask for your vote so I can continue to serve you by safeguarding your tax money. Thank you.
A hush kind of fell over the crowd when those first numbers came in.
We're at Scott Miller's watch party, and there's more than a dozen people here that are supporting him, and he's here with me, and first report shows that you're in the lead with about 10%. How are you feeling about that?
Sam Farr was just to our left a moment ago here in Salinas. He's now in Monterey with Shannon Hogan.
You know, you guys, I was a little jealous when you had Sam Farr sitting at the desk. So when he walked in and the room basically did this and erupted, I was like, come on over here, we're going to chat a little bit.
Matt, what's the latest?
Hey, Mark. Well, we are here at the American Legion in Marina, and it is Team 2010 is what they're called. 5 candidates coming in and out, 1 for mayor, 1 for city council, and there were 3 reportedly here for water board. Let me get out of the way here and set the scene.
It's either a yes.
They really absolutely need funding.
Or a no on Prop 21.
It's a bad idea. Plain, pure, and simple, it's just another tax.
You will decide if you want to pay $18 a year in a new vehicle license tax to keep state parks open. Supporters like this park ranger say it's an easy choice to make. He can't imagine limiting access to our state's 1 million acres of land, 280 miles of coastline, or nearly 3,000 miles of trails.
You know, I'd like to see my great-great-grand-nephews and nieces come here and see it the way I did.
But the president of the Monterey Peninsula Taxpayers Association said it's a bad way to budget.
What it does is take away the need for the state to donate or provide the money that they have been providing to the parks. It opens it up for them to use it for other things. Enough already.
But Ranger Chuck Bancroft says actually that could be a good thing. The state can then use the money slated for parks to prevent cuts to other vital services like education and health care.
The money that would go to state parks, how the legislature would allocate that to other needy programs is what they have to decide.
But should you be forced to pay for something you may not use?
If they don't want to fund it out of the general fund, don't come asking me, who doesn't go to the park, that I should pay for it.
At the center of it all, these breathtaking views, which no one can argue aren't worth protecting, but you will decide who's going to do it. It seems like we've all grown accustomed to waiting and watching the clock tick every year as our legislature grapples over a state budget. This year, the state set a new record for the longest budget delay ever.
Since 1980, there have only been 5 on-time budgets.
Delays that left many state-run businesses fearing the worst, like daycare centers.
We've set October 25th as our close date for all 8 centers because we can't go any further.
But Prop 25 is promising to fix the problem and punish the lawmakers if they don't get the job done on time.
Today, the public seems to be pretty much fed up with the delays, and they're willing to make a change in order to get a budget on time. That's what's really driving this.
Our political expert, Dr. David Anderson, said recent polls show strong support for the measure. Voting yes would change the state's constitution to allow a majority vote to pass the budget instead of 2/3.
We're going to keep working.
It would also require state legislators to forfeit their pay for every day the budget is late. But those opposed say it would hand over the reins to one party and allow tax increases, even though the proposition states taxes will be protected by a 2/3 vote.
The jury's still out on whether or not there will be some temptation to try to squeeze through other measures as part of the budget bill.
Anderson said historically the 2/3 vote was put in place in 1933 during the Great Depression, when the state was actually making money. But times have changed, and now you'll decide if a decades-old law should change along with it.
They've talked dirty
by double dipping.
It's an out-and-out lie.
And tried to look pretty.
I'm Sheriff Mike Kanalakis.
But now that the dust has settled, did this sheriff's race really mean anything to you?
Sheriff's race, not nothing that I'm too concerned about right now.
The reason I didn't vote was there really wasn't anybody I was too excited about voting for.
Oh, it was talked about around town for sure. It was even covered a lot in the media. But did the vote actually boil down to the real issues?
Popularity.
I think there was a lot of dirty tricks and a lot of nasty advertising.
They spend a lot of money, and to me it's a little bit too much money.
Lucio Puga lives in Soledad, and he said he tried his best to cut through to the meat of each candidate's platform. He voted for Kanalakis and now hopes Miller will keep the programs that are still around.
Keep working with task force, what they call gang task force down south, and they've been doing pretty good. So hopefully they keep the program going.
You know, it's been 8 years since a new name was atop this window here at the Sheriff's Department. And most of the people I talked to said it wasn't that Kanalakis was necessarily doing a bad job, but like most of the races across the nation yesterday,
there needs to be a change.
And according to Scott Miller, with Kanalakis' concession, there will be a new sheriff in town, even though habits, or should I say campaigning, is sometimes hard to break.
I've said a lot of things during the campaign, and my opponent did as well. And so what's really important is not what I've said, but what I do.
In Salinas, Brooke Holmquist, your Central Coast News.
Hola, me llamo Ana Caballero y estoy postulando para ser senadora de este estado. Pido su ayuda el día 2 de noviembre. Esta elección es bastante importante para nuestra comunidad. Hemos mirado que la economía está muy mal y lo que tenemos que hacer es crear trabajos y la oportunidad de tener éxito en esta economía. Conozco a mi comunidad. Tengo tiempo trabajando bastante duro para rebajar la violencia, para proveer oportunidades para nuestros hijos ir al colegio y también para proteger el interés de los inmigrantes. Es importante que cada persona que tiene la habilidad de votar salga a votar. Por favor, vote Ana Caballero el día 2 de noviembre. Gracias.
The reason why is pretty clear. Just take a look. Old bathrooms, poor piping, and locker rooms that are falling apart.
The conditions are very dire.
Even more so inside the classrooms. Complaints of an aging heating and cooling system even impacting the auto shop at Monterey High.
We've had issues with our climate control
because the system is old and it's not really designed for a shop area of this size.
The money would bring in more technology, like new computers. So let's break it down. If you vote yes on Measure P, a school bond totaling $110 million would be used by the Monterey Peninsula Unified School District. The impact for taxpayers? $30 on average for every $100,000 in the assessed value of your property. More than 20 schools from elementary and middle school campuses to Monterey and Seaside High would benefit from the bond. School administrators say Measure P would provide this local funding that the state cannot take away.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Cabrillo College in Aptos. I'm Katie Marzullo from KCOI.
And I'm Mark Cota-Robles from KION. Good evening to all of our viewers tonight in Senate District 15, which really does span the Central Coast.
Already 100,000 people have voted in this election, and so I'm hoping that this forum convinces those that haven't voted yet.
I want to express my appreciation to the League of Women Voters, the Santa Cruz Weekly, KION, KCOY, and KUSP for putting this on today.
I am not a professional politician. I'm a concerned citizen that's upset with what's going on in Sacramento.
This provides a forum for all the candidates, and for you who are participating in this electoral process, we very much thank you for turning out tonight.
That is just a glimpse at some of the political issues Central Coast News has tackled for our viewers in the past 2 years.
We hope our viewers got as much out of the stories as we did.